Niners just finished day 8 of practice, and Kyle Shanahan dropped a little bomb. He's having such a great time kind of just fooling with us because he knows, like, from his perspective, he doesn't have to say anything. And the stuff he does say can really be meant to confuse us. So he says some truth, sprinkles in with a lot of confusion, and gets people all worked up. So today he said that the Niners are going to use 2 quarterbacks this year. He's like, yeah, we're going to play Trey. I mean, it doesn't mean he's going to be a starter. Doesn't mean he won't be. Doesn't mean he's going to be the starter, but there will definitely be packages for Trey Lance. So essentially they're going to use a 2 quarterback system this year. Buy or sell that. Do you think that's going to happen?
I think I'm still on the. I think Trey's going to start week 1, so probably no.
Me too.
But if Jimmy is starting, then Trey will be packaged in. But I think that what this can open the door is, like, since Trey's maybe been playing well and Kyle's getting a little antsy, maybe he wants to start putting him in with the ones, and he doesn't want to answer your questions and be like, oh, Trey's in with the ones. Well, yeah, we're going to sprinkle him in. We're going to sprinkle him in.
It's not a competition. We already told you it's a package we're trying to prepare, and we need to get Trent Williams reps.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, I think people should understand is, like, Kyle and those coaches are as excited or more as you guys all are. We all
They're just
are.
not saying it. They're letting us say it. Yeah.
After practice, when they're sitting in the coaches' room, they're like, "Did you see that freaking throw? Like, did you see that? Did you see that? Like, yeah, that's them.
They're not
right
like,
now.
Hey, we're gonna need to see it 80 more times for it to count.
Yeah.
No, they're very excited too. It seems to me that the narrative. I like tracking Kyle Shanahan's phony narrative. At first he was like, "Hey, man, this is Jimmy's team. No rookies taking Jimmy's job. Sure, we bought in Trey Lance. He's for the future. He's got a lot of potential. This year is all about Jimmy Garoppolo." To now, like a week later, yeah, we're going to use a 2 quarterback system this year. We're going 2 quarterbacks. It's going to work. Trey's that good. Like, that's how much he's impressed. And it seems to me that once you're already committed to that, once you've already gone 2 quarterback, you're open to that. Then it's just, I mean, you're one bad throw, one bad half away from Garoppolo pulling them entirely and going with the king.
Yeah, they're just letting Trey do it, and it's the safe way to go. I mean, they hedging their bets. Like, Jimmy Garoppolo is helping them hedge their bets in case Trey was a failure, and it looks like he's not. But in case then keep Jimmy around. But by all indications, Trey's real, and he's going to be capable of playing. I mean, it'll be really interesting to see a week from now in the first preseason. Does Kyle hold Trey back? Is he just like letting Trey dink and dunk, or is he like let him rip? Like, if he lets him rip, then you know where Kyle's going.
He's trying to make a statement. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Behold your new quarterback. You're going to love him. So yeah, I guess I don't buy this 2 quarterback thing. They might do it for a game, maybe 2. But this just means that I think it's clear to me that Trey Lance, as long as he plays well in the rest of camp and preseason, he'll be starting no later than week 3, most likely week 2 or 1.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just going to maybe just slow play it a little bit, like the way that a lot of teams do. I kind of don't get it. I think NFL teams are a little too conservative here. Like, any other position, you take a guy top 10 and he looks good in camp, you just play him. But at quarterback, you'll take a guy top 10 and he'll look great in camp, and you'll be like, I don't know. Like with the Bills, they had Josh Allen. And they're like, I don't know. Why don't we start Nate Peterman week 1? It's like, what did that do for you? Or the Chargers last year, where they had Tyrod Taylor. It's like, let's just wait on Justin Herbert. Why?
It's such an old school thing. It's an old school philosophy. Like, oh, quarterback's got to sit. Quarterback's got to sit. But now with like the development that's happening from a very young age, like back then, back in, let's say, Montana's years, the offensive on the lower levels from high school to college were not as advanced as they are now. Like,
I believe Joe Montana was running the option a lot.
Quarterbacks were throwing in high school, were throwing like 4 times a game. Like, if you then in college it was like 20. Like, wow, like he threw 20 times.
I think he completed like 50% of his throws at Notre Dame. It wasn't a sophisticated passing offense there in the 70s.
Right, and then you got to the pros, and then you got to Walsh, who developed that sophisticated passing offense where it was short throws, timing, and all of that. Which
no one had done that before.
Right, It's all in the present NFL right now, and it's deep down. It's all on the lower levels. It's on my level. It's in college. So these kids are all armed with that, and they're trained at a younger age. And on top of that, I've discussed it on your channel multiple times. I think it's a lot easier for the quarterbacks now because of the open middle field, and you can't hit them and all of that. So it just makes for this perfect storm of like, yeah, these kids are ready. Like, and then they're starting younger on, in the college levels too. Like this all happened too on the lower levels too. Like, oh, you can't play a freshman. Like, you can't play a true freshman. Like, that's crazy.
Right. Yeah.
And
for these bogus reasons. If he's good, he's good. If he gives you the best chance to win, he gives you the best chance to win. So
yeah, you're not gonna.
I'm just curious to see if Kyle is that stodgy. Like, are you gonna start your second best quarterback week 1 just because he's older?
Yeah, and on the flip side of it, it's like it seemed to me the new age thing is like if he ain't got it within the first year or two, like get rid of him. Just move on.
It's not a developmental league, and the difference between college and the NFL in terms of scheme is not big. So a lot of guys have success right away. If you don't have success right away, it's probably because you're not going to have success. That's why everyone gave up on Josh Rosen. And maybe they were right. God, he's so disappointing in camp. We can talk about that later, though.
And I think if you look at a situation like Miami, that's why I think Miami is preparing in case they have to move off of Tua.
True.
He
did not look good last year.
No. Yeah.
Okay. Jamal says, appreciate the coverage. Thanks, Grant. We go to me step closer to Trey starting sooner than later. I think I understand what you mean by that. Thank you. I appreciate it. Jamal and I went out to dinner a couple weeks ago with Vish. Had a great time. Went to the Star in Oakland. Anyway, Curtis says Shanny said 2 QBs, but did not specify which 2. We are assuming it's Jimmy and Lance. But it could be Lance and some other backup quarterback. Wink, wink.
It could be Jimmy and some other backup.
Imagine taking Lance off the field to get Nate Sudfeld some reps. That would be fun times. Why rush Trey to start when you have a quarterback on the roster who can take you to the Super Bowl? Trey is the shiny new toy, but Jimmy is proven already. Okay, let's talk about Jimmy Garoppolo. Do you want to answer that question first?
Yeah, I think there's this like overriding notion that with the Jimmy and all, like just because a quarterback took you to a Super Bowl doesn't mean they're good. There have been
Rex Grossman went to a Super Bowl.
Right.
He was 13-3 that year too.
Chris Chandler went to the Super Bowl. Like, how awesome is Chris Chandler? Amazing, right? Hall of Fame guy.
How many guys go to the Super Bowl, lose, and never go back?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then like just because like listen, I do believe you can measure, a certain I do think wins do count for something for quarterbacks, and I think I think there is some sort of there is something that you can't, that's not a measurable thing that with quarterbacks, leadership and a presence, something that Tom Brady really has. But at the same time, all the other things matter too. Like statistics and what they do actually on the field do actually matter.
Yeah. And like Jimmy's win-loss record shows that he's a starting quarterback in the NFL. You can win with him if you put the right things around him, but that doesn't mean the Niners are all of a sudden going to not be able to win with a quarterback who's way more gifted and talented and better. Why? How's that? We could agree that Nick Mullins and C.J. Beathard weren't as gifted and talented as Jimmy Garoppolo. That's part of the reason why Jimmy Garoppolo had a better record than them.
Right,
Jimmy can't compete with the horsepower that Trey Lance is showing.
Yeah, right. And you had to it was like that year was like the perfect storm for Jimmy. Like everything was perfect around him and all of that. And and I love this notion of he's a practice player. Like, or sorry, he's not a practice player. He's a gamer, right?
No, he's the same.
It's the same. And I want to bring this up because we always say, 2019 was his best year, okay? 2019 was his best year. Do you know in 2019 what his interception percentage is, the percentage of throws that were intercepted? Do you know what it is and where he ranks that year?
It's got to be close to 3.
Yeah, he had the 7th highest interception percentage in the league.
And again, he had like the lowest air yards average. He's throwing the shortest passes in the league and still getting picked because he's Jimmy. Right.
So like he does the same thing in practice that he does on the field.
Sure.
He had the 7th lowest. Like the guys that were lower than him were Sam Darnold, Mason Rudolph, Kyle Allen, Phillip Rivers, Baker Mayfield, Jameis Winston. basically all the guys except for Phillip Rivers were all like basically rookies.
Yeah. I know. Double B Studio says with Jimmy's value dropping, Kyle will blame you, Grant. Is it looking more likely a Jimmy and Trey for this year's campaign over a Trey Sudfeld? Is it too early for this question? Nah, I think the Niners. I mean, they're getting people like Mike Silver and Adam Schefter to say that Jimmy Garoppolo is having the best camp of their life. I don't understand why these guys would just pass along someone else's propaganda without going there and watching. But that's
their business. Mike Silver. He
was there one day, and I talked to him, and I told him, I was like, dude, I told you. I was like, this is what he looks like. And I hear you, man. John Lynch told you, and you feel good about that. You trust John Lynch over me. I wouldn't lie to you, Mike. John lied to you. I would not lie to you.
It's not even that. It's not even that. It's okay. So if you guys don't trust Grant's eyes, just go to other beat reporters. Like see what they're saying. They're saying the exact same thing as him. Yeah. The exact same thing.
Anthony C says if Trey Lance is that dude, and we hope and think he is, then how do the Niners take advantage of his rookie contract? Who do they target in draft and free agency?
I mean, that's up in the air, right? Like there's things we're going to talk about now, like with the development of these rookies and all, like that's all going to then in free agency, like it does open up a lot of options as far as what you can do, because it gives you a lot of cash, open cash. Like you fill whatever hole you need in free agency, and then whatever you don't fill, you fill in the draft, and you could possibly take best available player if you're able to like fill all those holes up. That's what it kind of allows you to do.
That's right. Curtis says Jimmy did not take us to the Super Bowl. He just hopped on for the ride like a San Francisco trolley car. I like the simile at the end. That was a good image. I can see that. Yeah, I think he kind of did.
Yeah,
I don't think you ever remember that TikTok of the impression of all the quarterbacks in the playoffs, and the impression of Jimmy Garoppolo was just him passing out water bottles. That was too accurate. Okay, Jamal says it would be interesting to find out how many average at best quarterbacks have gone to a Super Bowl. Jimmy did, and he's definitely not the only one. Yeah,
you can look back like to see how many average quarterbacks went to Super Bowl. I mean, we're talking about when. Remember, guys, Jimmy went to the Super Bowl. He didn't win. He went to the Super Bowl. Like went there and lost. Like,
yeah, that's true. He went. Gammon Brown said, "Coach, is Ward cornerback depth insurance?"
He could be, but it's like I don't know. I don't like robbing Peter to pay Paul. Like he's so good at free safety. Why do you want to move him there?
Yeah, they have him at corner in one-on-ones. Not even corner. They have him matching up with wide receivers in one-on-ones. Probably because it's too easy for him to cover tight ends and wide receivers, and running backs are trying to give him a bigger challenge.
Like the only way I would do that is if like some safety like stands out and is like, wow, this dude is so awesome. Like we gotta play him, and he can't cover one-on-one. We gotta play him, in the single high roll. He can't do anything else. Okay, played Ward at corner, but outside of that, like I don't want to move Ward around. We've seen that before. No, don't do that.
Nate says, does Shanahan releasing Kaepernick a dual threat and trading for Lance a dual threat speak volumes about how much more cerebral Lance is than Cap? That's part of it, probably. I think that it's documented that Lance is much more into like the playbook aspect of football. I think he's also more into the throwing mechanic aspect of football. Kaepernick was a hard worker and a good athlete too, but they're different. And also Kaepernick was way older by the time Shanahan got here. It wasn't exactly the young Kaepernick.
Wouldn't you just say, as to summarize it as a whole, that Lance is just way more into football? Like it's more of a priority.
Yes,
it's just more of a priority for him.
Now we'll see how he responds to fame and money. Like what happened to Kaepernick was he was the backup, and then he played so well that stretch in 2012, and people went crazy. Like he was the biggest celebrity in the sport. Everyone said he was the best young quarterback in the game, and Ron Jaworski said he was going to be the best quarterback of all time. I don't think he ever really recovered from all of that fame at one. I don't think he was ready for it, and I don't think he ever handled it well. You never know how someone's going to respond to that, although it does look like Trey Lance is much more, I don't know,
grounded. Or
the
only thing that you could say is he did Kaepernick was more, he's kind of buried at Nevada a little bit. Like nobody's real. I mean, not to say that everyone was tuning into ND State game, but he was out. Like I think Lance was a little bit out there. He played an undefeated team. He didn't throw an interception, so who more or less did really know about him.
True.
There was a Lance Tech dream.
True. Anderson says, will Kyle be on the hot seat if the 49ers miss the playoffs?
Yeah, except the caveat would be, how does Lance look? I think if Lance hits and he's amazing, I don't know that
if Lance hits amazing, they're not missing the playoffs. Let's be real clear.
Let's be real clear. Great.
Biz Bang Bang Niner Gang says, I say start the kid. He's set up to win with the Niners. Grant, you the man. I'm right there with you, man.
All true. All that true.